You ever wonder why some people say PC is just far better than console? Well, today we're going to talk about that because I have around 6 major points for PC being better than console, starting with having the option for multiple storefronts. Now, a lot of non-PC gamers may think that the only storefront on PC is Steam, but that actually isn't the case. Despite Steam's popularity in the PC gaming space due to their low prices and wide array of features, there's actually a lot more storefronts to choose from. Some of the more major ones include Epic Games Store and GOG. With Epic Games Store, although it doesn't have as many features as Steam, it does offer a pretty wide array of free games every week. And with GOG, everything is DRM free, which basically means you have full ownership over your digital games, which is especially needed nowadays. Speaking of that, actually, we'll get to that point later in the video. Hell, you could look at other storefronts for game keys such as Humble Bundle or CD keys, for example. Both stores allow you to get games at sometimes ridiculously cheap prices, in case you don't want to pay full price or wait for a sale on Steam or something. Although it's rare, I would be careful with CD keys though, since it's a gray market, which means it is legal, but it's not authorized by the developers or publishers of the game. Unlike Humble Bundle, which is a little more safer since most if not all keys are authorized from the publishers themselves. Matter of fact, now that we're talking about spending money, you know what we don't have to spend money on? Playing online. Quite possibly the biggest scam on console isn't present on PC, thankfully. So no matter what storefront you're on, you don't have to pay to play online for games, which is really nice, honestly. Customization is also a really great factor for PC gaming. Pretty much at any time you want, you can upgrade specs such as your GPU, CPU, and RAM without having to actually replace a whole computer. Either that or you can just build your PC or buy a pre-built with whatever specs you want as well, which can be a bit pricey, especially nowadays, but we'll get to that in a bit too. Aesthetically speaking, you can customize your keyboard with different LEDs on the fans, mouse and keyboard, or even customize your wallpapers with software such as Wallpaper Engine. So there's a lot you can do both aesthetically and hardware wise. Speaking of the hardware though, another point is that PC is oftentimes way more powerful than console. Of course it depends on what rig you get, but some of the time, if not most of the time, even a mid-range PC can be much more powerful than a console. Depending on the specs, it might be more expensive than the console, but nowadays that doesn't even really matter since it's only like a $100–$200 difference, and consoles are like $800 now, so you might as well just save up the extra cash. Ooh, remember I brought up game ownership with GOG? Well, not only that, but there's also some other ways you can own your games on PC. Bringing up GOG once again, they just full on allow you to just make physical games on PC. With other stores like Steam, it might be a little harder to do so, but since you have the game's files on your computer, you could just fuck around with them and put them on a USB drive or somehow burn it onto a disc. That way, you can still own your PC games. There's also many ways to play games other than the store, such as emulation. With emulation, you can pretty much play any game you want, whether it be from old PlayStation consoles, old Nintendo consoles, stuff of that nature. Hell, with some emulators, you can take your old game discs from like a PS2 or something, put it in an external disk drive or something, and play it from the emulator. That way you're just playing a game that you own, but on PC. Although technically you could, allegedly, get the files of games from different sites and just emulate it that way. Although I can't mention all the positives without mentioning some negatives of PC gaming though. Sometimes when something goes wrong, it is a little harder to troubleshoot, especially when it comes to certain drivers and shit. And speaking of drivers, you do have to update them constantly. It could be as simple as your GPU drivers, or as weird as your like drivers for your speakers or some bullshit like that. Console is definitely a lot more plug and play. You just plug in your console, set it up, boom, you got it. You can play games now. Sometimes the OS you can work with, like Windows, can be a pain in the ass. But honestly, with how console gaming is going now, with Sony going all digital soon, console prices rising, and other anti-consumer factors such as paying to play online, honestly, the negatives of PC gaming are heavily outweighed by the positives. Sure, it might be a little more expensive, and PC isn't exactly safe from the price raises either, but as long as you get a good pre-build from a good company from like Amazon, Newegg, Best Buy, or you just somehow get PC parts for a good price in order to build your PC, honestly, I'd say it's worth the investment. But what do you guys think? Are you gonna switch to PC gaming? Are you already a PC gamer? Or are you a console gamer still? Let me know. Also, I did mention paying to play online quite a bit in this video, but if you want to know how that happened, go ahead and click the video on screen where I talk about the history of online gaming.